feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
All right. Another great day here in the area. We're going to talk to Samuel Ross here about what's going on at First Baptist, and also in probably a broader context, what does a church, particularly our church, because it's my church also, what do we do in these troubled times? How does the church respond to all the events that have gone on in the last couple of weeks, and what we consider to be appropriate responses and whatnot? First question I have you is, Kelsey watching the show?
Yeah, she'll be watching. I'm sure she is. Hi, Kelsey.
Yeah, how are you doing? Some of y'all know this young man and his wife were former students, but y'all didn't meet my class, did you?
No, we've met in history of film, which is a great, blow-off class.
Oh, hey.
I mean, not blow-off class. Miss Young was a great teacher.
Yeah,
I actually got to watch some movies I never watched before in that class. It was great.
But it wasn't as academically demanding as, say, AP chemistry or something like that. I get it, but...
No, it's not, but it definitely got more of my attention than chemistry did.
I bet that's true, too. Well, that's good. And y'all been married now how long?
12 years as of July.
And a couple of young boys?
2 boys, 7 and 4.
And then a couple more coming, I assume? Who knows?
That's up to God. It's not up to me.
Well, she might have something to say about it.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, now that I'm thoroughly embarrassed Kelsey wherever she is, before we jump into the church, let's go ahead and do the sponsors because they make all this possible. Thank you, Otto, at our place. We'll be going there pretty soon. I was there last Friday. The great usual breakfast I have there. It's a great place to go. You probably meet people there, I'm sure, for church business. And
we've got 2 groups that meet there.
2 Bible study type groups? Mm-hmm. Oh, good. Do you go by yourself?
I don't regularly attend them. They're at 6:30 a.m. on Monday.
I got that.
Yeah, which I'm taking kids to school. And then Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. I went to that one. Was going about 4 years ago, attending that one, but not recently.
I've never understood these early morning Bible studies. It's like God is awake 24/7, but, whatever. So that's their deal. But no, we do the men's Sunday school class every other Thursday. Unfortunately, we're not going to be there this Thursday because several of us are gone, but so we'll do it the next Thursday. But anyway, and they know us pretty well there, and they pretty much have our order down before we even walk in the door, and that's always a good thing. Same with Gina's Pizza. I really do enjoy that place. I don't know if you've been there much, but it's a great place to go and just relax. I do a lot of my B&I and podcast-related business there. The music's good, the food's good, the service is good, all about it I just like. And so it's a really great place to go for the kind of things that you want to have in a neighborhood pizza joint and that kind of thing. That's also where we had that really good show last Thursday. So I invite you all to go back into my Facebook page, go back, scroll down a bit, hit the one from last Thursday when we had all the nonprofits on, because that was one of my favorite shows we do. And then Otto was very generous to allow us some space and whatnot. Also, my friend John Williams, we'll be seeing him tomorrow at BNI, 817-734-2756. If you got a roof he needs looking at, he'll take care of it. I highly advise getting a roof inspection on an annual basis. And if you haven't done so, I do it now primarily because you don't want to find out when it's raining or having a sleet storm, you got a problem with your roof. Plus, if you wait too long, the insurance companies could be really difficult about it. And so you want to have somebody on your side dealing with them. So 817-734-2756. The inspection is free, and he'll tell you yes, no, whatever. He's not going to upsell you, give you some doomsday prognostication. If your roof is fine, he'll tell you. Also, my friend Jeff Kelly, 817-781-0546. Or at jeffkellyrealty.com. If you're looking to buy or sell in this area, he's the man to talk to. He knows his real estate. There's lots going on. They cut the rates a little bit. Maybe they'll make a change. Maybe it won't. Who knows? He'll know. So give him a holler if you're looking to buy or sell. And he does not just Burleson, but all over Johnson County, so we can help you out with that. My friend Tiffany Jane over at Local Life, working on the magazine now. Also, locallifetx.com. We'll also check out if you want to see what's going on currently. But it comes out at the very beginning of the month. 30,000 homes get it, including not just Burleson, but also Southern Crowley area and Joshua, and she's expanding into Alvarado, so it's all over the place. My friend Al, Bass Printing and Consulting Services, he does all these promotional items you ever want, hats and cups and pins and shirts and whatever else. I mean, you can stamp your name on it or your logo on it. He can do it. He's over at the Hub, which is on East Renfro, 222 East Renfro, right across from Old South and all that business. So email him at alrick, that's ALRICK, at bassprinting.com, or call him at 817-616-8761. And if you're looking to a small job, big job, he can handle all of them. I got my brochures and mailers and business cards from him, and they're high quality, so there you are. All right, so let's talk about first. A lot of changes going on. You know, most people know Chris Wigley from his days as the youth minister. He's my kid's youth minister. Was it yours?
He was my youth minister, yeah. From 8th grade until senior year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird now that you're on the same staff together, isn't it?
I thought it was going to be more weird than it actually is right now. I have really enjoyed working with Chris and getting to know him. First as my youth pastor, definitely an inspiring guy. Loved him as a youth pastor, but now as a boss, as a leader, loving him even more. He's a great leader.
He was really, really good for my kids. They both had him as their youth minister in their days, and I found him to be very knowledgeable of how to handle teenage kids. You know, it's an art. It's very difficult, and he also understood their problems, and he was very easy. My son said, and my daughter said also, that he was easy to talk to.
Yeah.
And Kathy, his wife, was also involved in that too, kind of like not so much in a paid position, but when you marry a minister, the wife comes along, right? As Kelsey will tell you.
For sure.
You know, my wife is a daughter of a minister, a retired preacher, and she saw her mother.
God bless her.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it has its advantages, I guess, but it's knowing my father-in-law, he was committed to going where God wanted him to go, and that meant turning down more lucrative jobs. And because he was committed, they said, I'm not going to go anywhere that God doesn't tell me to go. He ends up going to Brazil, and when my son, about 6 months after my son was born. So he was very much committed to following God's will.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And it's a good example, you know, and Robin really takes to those lessons. But anyway, back to the church, you know, Chris has been with us now for about, 4 months?
Since Easter of this year was his first Sunday preaching with us.
Yeah. I remember in the spring, when we were going through the preacher search, we had in our Sunday school class, Dan Gardner, whom you know well. He was on the committee.
Yeah.
And he absolutely wouldn't tell us a thing, and we didn't really ask him a lot of questions.
Good for Dan.
Well, you know, we didn't want to put him on the spot, like who's the contenders, who's this, you know, we honored that commitment he was making to keep it in-house with the committee. All he would say is it was going to be a very, very difficult decision because we had down to 3 really, really good candidates. And so he's asking for us to help him pray over which ones. Because it might seem like a no-brainer, just, Chris used to work for us, therefore he's going to be our pastor. It isn't quite that easy.
No, it's not.
You know. And
it's not fair to Chris to do that to him.
No, it
put him
isn't.
in that situation.
No.
Yeah, you want him to work through the process to get there.
Well, plus the fact that we wanted the right person, or the right guy for the job. And we all may think Chris is a no-brainer, but maybe that's not what God has him. And so they were really going to go through this appropriately, not just a gimme. And Chris, I talked to him after he was brought on. We had some coffee about it a couple months later. He said he didn't want to have it given to him because he didn't want that to be perceived.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when the day he was announced, all of us, the older members, have been there a while. We're just absolutely thrilled. I mean, we didn't even know he was a contender. We had no idea.
They kept it pretty under wraps.
Yeah.
On staff, I didn't know he was a contender either. Yeah, I heard whisperings every once in a while, like, hey, maybe it's this person, maybe it's this person. But I never heard from anybody on the search committee, never heard from our executive pastor, Christopher Cass, who was even himself not in the know on who these candidates were. So it was very tight-lipped all across.
We didn't even have hints. The only hint Dan would ever give is they're very high-quality candidates. And then after the choice was made, he didn't specify the other 2 candidates and where they came from, but he kind of described their qualifications and their situations. But he didn't. The other 2 gentlemen, I have no idea, and we really didn't ask. But still, it was really a great day because it brought back a lot of very strong memories.
Yeah.
From back in the day, so to speak.
Yeah, I can tell you from being on staff, there is a holding of your breath before you're about to meet who your new boss is going to be.
Oh, yeah. It's the same in schools. I mean, when we had a new principal or something like that, or in my department, since we had so many coaches, every time we changed head coaches and athletic directors, half my friends would go, and I had a new set of crew come in. It's the same thing. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So whenever Chris walks in the door, whenever he gets introduced, we have no idea who's going to come through the door. There was from me at least, and the people who know him, there was okay, we're going to be all right. This guy's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a sigh of relief almost.
Well, what I've liked of what Chris has done is he has kind of rejuvenated certain aspects of the church that I think we got complacent in, and that's easy to do.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever a new preacher comes in, like his predecessor, Ronnie Marriott, he comes in and makes some changes. Not everybody's going to be excited about it. And so I think what made it easier is that Chris is going to come in and make changes, but I think because we know him, we're going to give him a great deal more latitude in making these changes.
That's we call that relational capital. That's the currency of discipleship is relationship. And so already having that in your pocket to be able to spend when you walk in is a big deal.
Well, and none of the things that I've seen so far have been, well, that's unusual. It seems like the kind of things that we needed to have been doing and kind of got away from. Mike Milburn was there so long that, we get used to it. This is the man who baptized me or my children, and I've been listening to him preach for 20-something years. And, I joined First Baptist in 91 primarily because of him. Yeah. I don't know, the history of First Baptist, he come in at a very difficult time, right? And I went to see one of BHS students. They were doing like a youth Sunday night service, and he invited me because he was going to do the preaching. His name was Mickey McPhail. I don't know if that rings a bell with anybody, but he'd be about 20 years older than you. And we signed the visitation card. Mike drove all the way out to Arlington where Rob and I were living just to visit. And I thought, I'm going to give this guy some more opportunities. Wow. And so we started going on Sunday nights. And then when we were looking to move to Burleson, and when we did, we joined the church. And Mike was there for so long, and he didn't baptize my children. My father-in-law did, which Mike was very gracious about allowing other family members or ordained people doing it. It was just you just get used to it. Yeah. And Baptists, as you know, can be rather contentious about change.
They can, just like we just changed service times.
Did you get a lot of static about that?
So I think the way that we went about it helped a lot to make the transition smooth. So we had a 9 a.m. traditional and modern service meeting simultaneously. We'd live broadcast the preaching from one room to the other. And it was a great system, but it had a lot of headaches and a lot of points of failure, which often would. There was a time when I'm in the modern service, I get a call about 5 seconds before service starts. It's one of our production guys saying, hey, the stream is down, you need to preach. And I wasn't ready, but at the moment the Lord provides, and so everything went fine.
You don't have like a sermon in your pocket just ready to go.
I do usually, but so I pull out Acts 2:42 through 47, which is the birth of the church, and there's a lot of stuff about fellowship and discipleship in there.
Well, I had similar deals with the school teacher, and I always had a couple of lesson plans in my pocket in case the internet was down that day. And in pre-internet days, those kind of interruptions weren't quite so common, but I still had one like in my pocket, and just in case. And after a while, you could you could kind of almost ad lib, if you will. I can see the problems though having a split deal like that, because what if you have somebody in the other service that really wants to make a commitment to the church or maybe a first time commitment to the Lord, and there's really, I know we try to have people there, but you want to see the preacher.
Yes, and that's what we were hearing. So we were doing a preaching team where we would have live preaching in every room intentionally. Right. It would be me, Daniel Morrow, Matt Armendariz, Daniel Lacey, and we kind of rotate weeks. It would be opposite of Chris at that service. And we didn't hear any complaints about our preaching, thankfully, but what we did hear complaints about was we want to hear from our new guy more frequently. Yeah. So the 11 a.m. service, which was just a modern service, got him every single Sunday. So no complaints there, but people at the 9 a.m. hour were thinking, well, we really want to hear from Chris more often.
Well, when you go down front, as we say, you want to talk to the preacher.
Yeah.
All right. And, because us old timers, that's what what we remember doing. I did it when I was 12, and I remember talking to Travis Berry, who God used in wonderful ways back in Plano days. He's long since passed, but there are certain traditions, if you will. We're not maybe as ritualistic as some other denominations, but we have traditions like casserole and pot, fried potluck and fried chicken everywhere.
Yeah.
Meals are very important to us for some reason. But one of the traditions was going down front and making your profession, and you want to tell the preacher.
That's right.
And so I'm glad he's going to be available for him. As far as the change in Sunday school, it affected us because my class met at 10:45 and 11. No, it was actually 10:30.
Oh yeah, 10:30.
10:30. Now we're at 9:45, and and has it caused any real adjustments? But the only thing we had to adjust is that if we're going to do, like quite often we go out to lunch together afterwards, we have to kind of plan it to meet somewhere and that kind of thing instead of just going over there.
Yeah. I apologize for that. I know that's a big adjustment.
Well, I know, but it's what we suffer for the Lord. What can I say?
That's right.
We have to change our routine. God help us.
And I think that's what we did whenever we were changing service times or planning on it. Is we sent out a survey, which is what is most important to you. Do you want a live preacher in the room? Do you want to hear from Chris? If we did do Chris in every service, would you be willing to meet at 8:30 versus 9, what you're doing now? And overwhelmingly from the traditional service, we heard that we would be willing to meet 30 minutes earlier if Chris is in the room and we get to hear from him more frequently.
Right. I think it's going to grow the church. I really do. And it also, we got to the point about having these multiple services at same times. There were people that I've gone to church with for a long, long time that I hadn't seen for quite some time.
Right.
I mean, months, years, because we were going to 2 different services at the same time, or our Sunday schools weren't lined up. And so, it was harder to maintain fellowship. And a lot of people like a smaller church and all that. And one of the problems with the bigger churches, they don't know everybody. I always thought First Baptist did a pretty good job of maintaining a church-wide fellowship, but it was getting harder to do.
It's always a challenge.
It is, because not just because of our size, but because of the multiple chances or opportunities to go. COVID didn't help.
No.
Gosh, we're still dealing with the impacts of COVID even now.
Yeah.
In terms of attendance and whatnot. How has attendance been the last 3 or 4 years, as far as you know?
So we have a staff member named Daniel Morrow, who's our executive pastor over ministries. So he's my boss. He was a self-proclaimed nerd when it comes to numbers, and so he diligently tracks things. He let us know yesterday that this time over last year we're up 30%.
That's really good
in attendance, and so
I'm quite sure it has a lot to do with Chris.
Oh yeah,
and I don't want to disparage Ronnie Mary by any means. It's just that I think that because of Chris's background with First Baptist and a lot of his background with individually with yourself and others, who remember from the youth pastor days, I knew that when they hired him that we're going to have an uptick in attendance.
Yeah, and there's just automatic buy-in with him.
Well, and comfort level.
Yeah.
And trust level, and so it's going to be a really good deal over the next few years. But you're making other changes other than just changes in church time. I know you're making changes to the life groups in some ways. What are those?
Well, we're making adjustments overall to mission, vision, strategy. So a lot of things are staying the same, just rewording a few things, and we'll have a series very soon in the church where we'll go through a lot of those changes that are being made. But in terms of life group, like what we're allowing for life groups to do and study, we're adding things that are available to them. So we've started developing sermon-based curriculum. So Chris gives us his notes, which whenever we get them, they're usually a topic in a passage. And we're developing a sermon-based curriculum for life groups to go through with that. And Daniel Lacey's doing an incredible job developing all of that. So we're offering more things for life groups. We have an additional hour for life groups to meet now at 8:30. So there's more for groups to be involved with and do. Not necessarily making too many changes, though.
I haven't been in a long time, but Wednesday night used to be one of my favorite opportunities because it wasn't just a sermon and, the usual church service was dedicated studies towards certain topics.
Yes.
I remember one of my favorites, we did a whole year of Old Testament with Kevin Stager.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Stager.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. And, but it was really great because there was about maybe 20 of us, and we could really get into it quite a bit. And there were other courses offered. Is that still happening or going to be revised any?
Yeah, that's actually been growing for the last few years, which has been really good. We really started that with a focus on marriage ministry, so and care groups, and because there's a huge need for marriage help in our community, and so that was both a internal help for our people, but also looking at the data. I think it's something like 40% of marriages in Burleson say that they need help in their marriage.
Well, who doesn't? I mean, we say help. I mean, we didn't mean you're calling the lawyers, but I guess maybe not in your case because I'm sure you're still on the honeymoon. But still after 30 plus years, I mean, there's still adjustments, compromises, all these kind of things you have to make.
I would be very wary if I thought, I got everything figured out right now. I'm doing marriage so great.
Oh yeah.
If you're in that position, you have room to grow.
Or you're incredibly lucky. But and I'm very fortunate. I mean, 38 years with Robin has been a blessing. It doesn't mean every day's been something out of Hallmark movie. Right. And we've had to learn to adjust and whatever else. And some days I'm not my best self and that kind of thing. Yeah. And so that's the adjustment.
Yeah, but that 40% is people that admitted they needed help. If that's almost half of people say, we need help, I'm sure there's a lot more that would say it. So it was an outreach effort, which is still ongoing. But we also have a very strong men's ministry and women's ministry that are doing some kind of gender-specific Bible studies. So right now we have a group of women. There's about 45 of them that are meeting on Wednesday nights that are going through a study of the book of Romans. And then the men right now are doing a 6-week study on Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy on discipleship.
There's some value in having gender segregated, if you will, Bible studies and all, because a lot of the things that maybe come up in either one of those studies, they'd be reluctant to bring in a more mixed crowd.
Yes.
That's one reason why the men's breakfast thing we do is important to us, because we talk about things that maybe we would be reluctant to bring up in front of women.
Correct.
And vice versa. And so I think that's had some real value. I just remember over the years that Wednesday night had all sorts of different mini courses, 8-week courses and such.
Yeah.
And I hope we continue with that.
Oh, we will. Yeah, I've got the Janet and Mike Decker. I don't know if you've met them before.
Didn't ring a bell, no.
They're leading a group at the same time your group meets, so it'd be probably hard for y'all to meet up. They're doing a fantastic job. They're doing love languages right now, 6-week study on love languages. And our staff actually met yesterday for a mini in-house staff retreat. We got together for about 5 hours, worked through some mission vision stuff together. And one of the things that we came out of...
Was there food involved?
Oh, there was food involved. We had Roscoe's Barbecue. They came in. It was fantastic. And then one thing that's come out of that meeting is the same thing that you just communicated. There's a feeling of a need for some kind of systematized discipleship course, whether that's on a Wednesday night or as a Sunday morning, but kind of like a 101, 201, 301, like basics for beginners, and then kind of mapping out, like, if somebody's starting from square one, what does it look like to be somebody who has fully devoted their life to Christ?
Well, I remember going to a marriage-related kind of counseling, not counseling, that's not the word, study, that's the word, 20 years ago. All right. And it was led by, ironically, a former high school and college friend of mine. It was really funny. I don't know. Do you remember Steve Welch by any chance?
Name doesn't ring a bell.
Well, it was funny because he was 2 years older than me in high school, and then 2 years older than me at Baylor, and so I really respected and admired him. And then during one of those Halloween parties, well, we don't say Halloween, we talk about fall festival.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, whatever. We had in the Family Life Center with all the stuff for the kids. Hayden and Sarah are still into that kind of thing. Mike comes up to me and says, "Hey, I just met somebody from Plano and Baylor." And I go, "What's his name?" "Steve Welch." And I go, and I'm like, "Oh my Lord!" I almost had a heart attack, and I sought him out, and he was there for about 2 years. He was, I don't know if he still is, but at the time he was the chaplain at that federal prison up in.
Oh wow!
Yeah, if you ever seen Goodfellas, one of those characters was one of his counseling clients, I guess.
Wow!
You ever seen Goodfellas?
Bits and pieces, never all the way through.
Oh, right. Yeah. The guy, the big guy, Paulie. That was that was the guy, and he died in that prison. So, anyway, back to the matter at hand. I just remember that was always a real special time Wednesday night. They still do food. I haven't been there in a while.
Yeah, we do a meal. It starts at around 5:30, goes till 6:30. I think we're serving like 200, 250 plates a night. And so we have the students, children, adults that are coming through. And
Is it like $4, $5 a pop?
I don't know if I'm supposed to advertise this. It's not. It doesn't cost anything right now.
Well, why wouldn't you advertise that? I know you need to advertise that. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, because in my old church in Plano, they would basically, they'd have like I wouldn't call it a tip jar, but they said they had a fund for providing meals and people could donate to it, kind of like we do now with special offerings and whatever else. So it didn't, if you could either pay $3 or if you donated, wrote it like a big check, you can just, go for free. But I'm glad we don't charge for that.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for Jennifer Gio, who her and her team, they cook that every Wednesday night.
She's been there a long time.
She has.
But the thing is, there's a lot of people maybe coming that may be their only meal of the day. You ever think of that?
It could be.
Yeah, and the fact is, they come and get a meal, they might get the bread of life, so to speak, right?
Yeah, I mean, Matt Armendariz was a big part of pushing that forward. He's our youth pastor. And, I mean, the youth group, since he did that, has grown tremendously.
Yeah, since I left the high school, I haven't really kept contact with the youth group anymore. How's that doing?
It is my favorite place to be on a Wednesday night, if I'm being honest. I mean, I love going to our different adult groups, and I get to teach those every once in a while and step in and help lead and give support to the teachers. But if I get the chance to, I go hang out with the students, at least for the worship portion. There's something really special going on in there right now.
I hope so.
Yeah.
My father-in-law, the pastor, says there's no bad reason to go to church because everybody thinks if you're going for anything other than, devout worship, then you're wasting. You shouldn't be there. Well, he said, no, we'll get you in the door. We'll work on you on you after that. So if you're coming to play on the softball team and you have to come to church, well, okay. If you're coming to meet girls, that's fine too. Because once we get you, then we can start working on you. Yeah. And I remember, Wednesday night services, both not just at first, but also at other churches, like Crestmont had a big one, Kane had a big one, and Church of Christ had a big one. That was like Wednesday night was like, don't put any homework on that night because it ain't going to get done. They're going to be,
don't have practice that night.
That kind of stuff.
Don't schedule anything.
Don't, if you're going to have a test, don't do it on Thursday because they won't study. So you don't want to be seen as a heathen. But that was when I was a kid. One of the best things we did was Sunday night because we had the Sunday night service, the old traditional, and then we'd have youth group activities in somebody's home. And we didn't miss it. All right. You might miss Sunday morning, but you wouldn't miss Sunday night. And then afterwards, the youth gathering. It was called Wrap In. This is late 70s. All right. And we get together and talk about kid stuff, Yeah. And, I hope we have that available for the kids there. That's because it was such a blessing for me. Yeah. I still have friends. In fact, I'll be seeing a couple of them next week that were part of that Sunday night crew.
Part of the way that we try to help marriages or are continuing to try to help marriages in our area is we kick off every Wednesday night semester, which we do semester-based Wednesday nights. We kick them off with a date night, and that is a big, community push. It's for our people, of course, at the church, but it's also something that we send out on Facebook ads and things like that.
So they can go to Gina's Pizza, in other words.
What's that?
They can go to Gina's Pizza?
We'll get some coupons from Gina's Pizza. They'll see if they'll be a sponsor.
Okay. I just throw the sponsors in there. Give them a shout out.
Yeah. Gina's Pizzas is great.
We have a lot of good restaurants here. For them to choose from.
Well, we do a date night. Like this last time around, we did a silent disco. Which if you've never done one of those before, they're a blast.
No disco music?
It was a mixed genre. It was an 80s, 90s themed night. So people came dressed in their, overalls and pink undershirts and side ponytails. It was great. And
see, you're way too young to live through that nightmare known as disco. When I was in high school, we had to deal with the Russians and the Iranians and Jimmy Carter and disco. It was a tough time.
Yeah.
Grim.
Yeah.
And so... disco.
The music that came out of that generation makes a lot of sense in that light.
Well, the thing about it is, you weren't playing like How Great Thou Art or anything like that, where they're supposedly grooving to this music. It was what they heard on the radio, right?
Oh yeah,
You had
it was clean.
Of
clean,
course.
The clean
Right,
songs.
the clean song. I was going to ask you that. There's 2 or 3 songs I remember from that era that, okay, I won't play that with my mother around, but...
There was one song. I had a guy come up and request some like 80s, 90s country, and I'm not super familiar with a lot of country, and so I put it on a playlist, and a song came on and dropped a choice word, and I was thankful that the reaction from everybody was to laugh about it and not call me a heathen or anything like that, but that's something that we did, where we invite people into the community, and about 40% of the people that attended that are not church members, which is fantastic. And then a lot of them end up signing up for a love languages class. And
it's interesting.
They start getting help, and they're, like you said, there's no bad reason to come to church for a date night or for anything else.
Right.
I rely on the Holy Spirit, and the Word of God is going to work whenever people hear it.
It's interesting. I mentioned that about no bad reason. Back in the 90s, we really brought in a lot of young men about my age, early 30s, because of the softball program. Okay? And you think, okay, is that the primary purpose of church? The primary purpose of church is to reach the lost. Yeah. And most of these guys wouldn't step foot in the door of a church, but they would come play softball. And Mike was pretty much like, look, if they're going to wear our shirt and say they're First Baptist, they need to come to our church. And so they would come, because of the softball. Yeah. And then after a while, they started coming because of the church. Yeah. And I didn't see them. I didn't know them in their prior lives, so to speak. I saw them after the transformation, if you will. And there were about, I could think of 8 guys right now that really had their life changed because of softball. Yeah. And their families were salvaged in some cases. Yeah. There's a couple that are still around, but most of them moved on, out of town, whatever else. But it was amazing. Yeah. So you never know what's going to reach people. Yeah. And, it's like I said, the youth group thing I did brought in some people, some young people that probably would have no association with church at all, but because they had buddies in this group, they kind of got integrated in it. Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be good for churches to look at the gaps that they can fill in people's lives. Like our church built a fantastic gymnasium in the early 90s because Burleson City at the time didn't have a cohesive basketball program for the city. And so the church filled in that gap. And so that's part of the strategy, is find out what's missing from people's lives, whether it's food, necessities, community, fun, and then help fill that gap and add value to people's lives. Well, I remember Upwood Basketball started with us, and then, boy, they brought in a lot of people that otherwise probably had never been in a church before. Correct. And so these are the kind of things we need to be involved in. And you talk about these troubled times and the gaps, and so just kind of segue a little bit, not just about First, but about church in general. These last few weeks have been really hard. The last few months have been really hard. The last few years. Yes, for years. Keep going. Yeah. Well, honestly, I get asked, because being an old ex-history teacher, is this the worst it's ever been? And it's as bad as it's seen it. Historically, I was 6 at the time, but I remember the late 60s and early 70s were pretty bad as well. But you know what? I think this is about as bad as it was then. Yeah, we forget, in the early to mid 70s, how much strife was going on in our community. We had bombings all the time of federal facilities and stuff like that. I mean, I think one year, 73, we had over 300 registered bombing events. Wow. Yeah. Now they didn't. We're not talking about 9/11. We're talking about minor things, or in some cases, or stunts, but that was still happening. But now, it really has divided families and friends. Yeah, I hear about that all the time. People severing ties with families because of political ideology and whatever else. There's been a couple of family members that we have had to really work hard to maintain the relationship with, and I guess they would say the same, because I think the internet has so accelerated these kind of feelings and positions. Yeah. In our day, we had positions that we took and had strong feelings about, but we didn't have a means to amplify them to everybody that was willing or unwilling to hear it. Yeah. And how does a church navigate through all that? If I had the answer, the answer for that, I'd have a book out and be doing a nationwide tour, and I have the answer to I think what is society's greatest issue today.
is navigating that.
Yeah, well, we were talking about, of course, Charlie Kirk being killed and all the animosity that sprung up on both sides because of the reaction of the other side and all this other stuff. But this has been going on for a while now.
Yeah.
And, people say, well, I blame the internet. Now, that same internet that we blame is also the way that some people can access First Baptist.
Yeah.
It's a tool, and I think it's somewhat been misused.
Yes.
I mean, they said the same thing about television back in my day. Television's a terrible thing. Well, also, that's how you saw Billy Graham.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think the internet at its best is whenever it's educating you, connecting you with a community you otherwise wouldn't be able to connect with, teaching you something. Like there are some great applications to the internet. But
but there's all this other stuff too.
Yes.
There's a lot of trash and pretty explicit stuff and whatever else. But as we as a church, are you getting a lot of families coming to you and saying, this is ruining our family? Or not just the politics, but just other aspects of social media?
Yeah, I've gotten a few emails from people asking, how do I navigate whenever my children and I don't see eye to eye politically? And I don't have a great answer for that.
Well, and who does, right?
Yeah.
Because and a lot of people that claim to have an answer are doing it for their own reasons. They're not doing it to help you, to help themselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot of exploitation with these divisions.
Yeah.
It actually is going to be the content of my next show, which I'm going to do in about 20 minutes after this one.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of people took the Charlie Kirk killing and try to turn it to something to their advantage.
Yeah.
And to support their ideologies.
I think everybody saw that too. I don't know if anybody was sheltered from the discourse that came out of that.
No, it wasn't. It was awful. And the thing is, it seems like there's no escape from it.
No. I think whether it's an email about how do I relate to my children who don't agree with me, or if it's how do we respond to that, I think the idea of relational evangelism has a couple of applications here, which if you don't know what that is, it's intentionally befriending people, bringing them into community that are not of the same religious ideology as you or the same belief as you, and inviting them into their community, into your community, so that they can come and see and be a part of, and then eventually, hopefully, like we said, like invite them to a date night or to a men's study or to a relationship study, so they begin to see and actually experience who Jesus is. They experience that through you. They experience it through hearing the word of God, through the conviction of the Holy Spirit. But the focus is I am building a relationship with that person, and that is the thing that is most important to me. And so in that email, the response is put that relationship as the priority. They care for the person.
Well, so, if the person on the other end of that relationship isn't interested, it makes it even tougher.
No, it does.
It makes it a lot tougher. And we've all experienced, broken relationships. I don't know anybody that hasn't had a relationship that's been broken in some way by what has gone on in the real world, so to speak. And it's unfortunate. And I guess, again, back in my day, we could find shelter from it because we didn't have social media 24/7.
Yeah.
And if you really just didn't want to, be tuned in on everything, you could drop out of it pretty quickly. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to read the paper. Now you can't get away from it.
No.
And no aspect of entertainment or sports seems like is exempt from it. They're all, and so it's a very difficult time. And I just wondered how many people were coming to our church or any, I'm sure you've got connections with other churches. And they come in and said, "This is ruining our lives."
Yeah. It's less than what I thought it would be. Based on what you see online, how people complain and the things that get boosted so that you do see them whenever people talk about their relationships being strained, it is fewer than what I thought I would have seen at this point.
There's another aspect. You're about mid-30s, right?
Yeah, 34.
Well, I'm not going to tell you how old Kelsey is, but anyway. But a lot of people your generation have dropped out of church.
Yeah.
And it's concerning.
Yeah.
And why is that? Why do you think they're dropping out?
There's a lot of reasons why.
Okay.
I mean, you can look back at the last 10 years of the intersection of politics and church. That is a main reason that I have seen. There's also the disconnect of, there's a lot of studies on this, that if you come from a family that was Christian, but your parents are divorced, you are 80% more likely to not continue in the faith or stop going to church. So you can see the breakdown of the family, having a big push towards people not participating in church anymore.
One thing that I've been told, and this is just my anecdotal experience, is that we have churches today. I'm not going to name any locally because I'm not aware of them, but I know we see them on television or whatever. That the gospel that's presented to them is kind of like a fairy tale, and when that fairy tale doesn't come true, they come disenchanted with God and disenchanted with the faith and whatever else. Because becoming a Christian is not a solution to every problem. I mean, if you got problems in your life and you become a Christian, those problems still going to be there the next day. And they think you become a Christian, they all just vanish, And and I've seen a couple of these Christian-based movies where that happens. I'm thinking you're telling them the wrong message. I mean, because if I if I was out of work and I became a Christian, it doesn't mean I'm going to get a job the next day.
No. Or if you have an addiction, that doesn't mean you're going to be over that addiction.
Right.
Except Christ, yeah.
And so I think some of these churches are preaching this gospel a little bit like gospel light. That if you become a Christian, then all your problems are going to go away. And if you want to know more, send a check here or whatever.
Yeah.
And, not every church in the DFW area is preaching the true gospel, if you will.
Yeah.
They're just giving you the fun parts. They're giving you the dessert part, not the hard part. And a properly presented presentation of the gospel says, hey, becoming a Christian isn't just a magic trick. It isn't like we sprinkle fairy dust on you and everything, you're now good. And also the fact is, if you have bad habits, let's say, and you become a Christian, you're going to have to work to get rid of the bad habits. They're not going away the next day.
Oh, yeah.
So I just think some churches often don't present the responsibility part of the gospel. They present all the positives. Yeah. You're going to get this and that, and instant peace and all that, and it didn't happen. Yeah. How many Christians have you and I known over our lives that really still struggle with the faith?
All of them.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much all of them.
Yeah. I think people say, I have no problems with my faith. I have no struggles. I'm thinking, okay, either you got it figured out, more than likely is you don't give it much thought. Yeah. Because every Christian I know still struggle, have questions. Why did this happen?
Yeah, there's a great quote. I can't remember who it comes from, but they said, 60 years ago, I knew everything. And today, what I have learned is that my ignorance has no limit. Yeah. And so the process of education is unveiling our own ignorance. Yeah. But the place that I experienced what you're talking about is a lot, not necessarily in church, because I was at First Baptist. I went to Christ Chapel for a little bit. I was in very sound doctrinal churches.
I hear a lot of good things about Christ Chapel.
Oh, yeah. Same here.
A lot of good things.
But I would go to a church camp or a music, music fest, whatever, worship fest, I don't know what they called them. And they would always have a guest speaker who would come out, and their story was drugs, murder, whatever else. And then all of a sudden, Jesus came, and from that day on, they flushed everything down the toilet. They were clean and good, and so that was the gospel message that I grew up in my very formative years hearing. That I think it didn't do a lot of damage to me, but
it gave you an unrealistic expectation.
Yes, and so whenever I began to have struggles in my teenage years, I was thinking, well, I'm already a Christian. Why am I struggling? I heard this guy talk about how whenever he met Jesus, everything changed for him. But I feel like I'm just like everybody else around me right now because I'm struggling with the same temptations and everything else.
Oh, yeah. I had the same situation when I was in high school. We had speakers come to church. We had youth conferences or church camp. And I thought, we'd have some reformed Hell's Angel come in and go, I used to do this, that, and the other, and I met Jesus and never did again. I'm thinking, gosh, I wish I did drugs. I would have a better story. I wish I killed somebody, whatever. I wish I did jail time because I felt like my story as a boy who grew up in a church was pretty dull. I come to learn much later, really my testimony, if you will, is not, I was involved in all this stuff, but I was not involved in this stuff, and I can equate that to my faith in Christ. I avoided all that. I didn't have to go through drugs and jail and broken relationships to get to Christ. I come to understand how fortunate I was, not how deprived I was that I don't have a more dramatic story. Yeah. But you're right though. I just think a lot of people are disappointed when the magic they think should happen doesn't happen. They still struggle. They still have these problems, they still have doubts and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think as a church, we need to make sure we tell them these doubts are normal.
Yes.
They're acceptable. God isn't going to be mad at you if you have questions or doubts.
I think it should be even taught that that's part of the process to struggle with the Word of God. Like we should be coming to the Bible and not walking away all the time with ooey gooey lovey feelings. Like it shouldn't be warm and fuzzies all the time. We should be walking away with like, I don't know if I agree with this. I don't know if like this God that I'm reading about in the Old Testament, whenever he said kill every man, woman, and child, and you look in Romans and like God loved everybody. Like you look at John and God so loved the world. It's like, well, how do these two things, like how do we make these things agree? And that should cause us some level of trouble where we have to dig. It shouldn't cause us, hopefully, to retreat away, but to lean in and dig deeper.
Well, I remember many, many years ago, Billy Graham was on a television interview, and the interviewer is a guy named Larry King, who's had a show on CNN for many, many years, said, ask something similar to what you just asked. How do you square those things? And Billy Graham goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I just, I really felt like this load had been taken off me because I thought, well, if Billy Graham doesn't know, I don't feel so bad about not knowing myself.
Yeah.
You know, I figured Billy Graham had the answer to everything, and he says, I really don't know.
Yeah. I can tell you that's the most honest answer that you'll get out of anybody, too. Going through seminary classes where I've studied this extensively, that there is ideas, but there is no consensus.
Right. I guess we come to the point where we say, okay, we trust God, we trust his character, we trust what he says, but we don't understand it.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to have to live with that. And I think a lot of people say, well, if you can't understand your own faith, then what good is it? Well, I would say to them, you know, that we have a God and we have the Scripture and we have the Holy Spirit and we know what direction to go in.
Yeah.
But we're not going to be seeing every detail.
Yeah.
But that, you know, and we're going to have questions.
Yeah.
You know, why did this happen? Why does this happen?
Yeah.
You know, does this contradict other aspects of Scripture? On and on. And I think I'm at the point of my life where I just say, I trust God, but I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I should quit looking, but I'm not going to be unhappy if that is never really made perfectly clear to me.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
So
There's
I think some people use that as an excuse to not embrace the faith because they don't think they're going to get all the answers. Well, I'm not going to get all the answers.
Yeah.
And I could be twice the Christian that I am.
Yeah.
So
well, there's two studies I think that are very valuable in kind of understanding our current culture. These were done in the last 5 years. There's one in 2021 about the transmission of faith from person to person and generation to generation. And they found that the presence or absence of creds, which are credibility enhancing displays of faith, the fancy word, are what allowed faith to transmit from generation to generation and person to person. And a good example of that is if you end up on a deserted island and there's two groups of people there. One of them tells you, hey, to survive here, we eat these mushrooms. The other group says, to survive here, we eat these carrots. You see the people who talked about the carrots actually eat them, but the people who talk about mushrooms, they never touch them. Who are you going to believe?
right.
Yeah, so it's these credibility enhancing displays where you grow up in a household where mom and dad go to church and the child hears, hey, be slow to anger, be quick to listen. They hear about the teachings of Jesus, and they go home and dad is flying off the handle at the drop of a hat. And they start to see these cruds, which are credibility undermining displays, and which is why you see a 50% divorce rate in America, and now we have 80% of those people walking away from church. So I was taught about Jesus, I was taught about love, I was taught about what it looks like to live in a relationship with him, and then I did not see that displayed for me as a child. You're much more likely to walk away.
Well, and when I was growing up, you know, church was expected. And if I didn't feel like going to Sunday school, I wouldn't be playing football that afternoon.
Yeah.
You know, so my dad, you know, when I was a little kid, it was like, there's no debate. Get up, you're going to church. But then when I hooked up with that youth group, I didn't need any other motivation than that.
Yeah.
And in fact, when I was in high school, my parents missed, the church I went to when I was in high school was incomplete as far as a building was concerned. We had a youth center, well, not a youth center, a basketball gym kind of thing, and we would have our services there while we tried to raise money for a sanctuary. And my parents just kind of missed the old-fashioned church services.
Yeah.
So they went back to First Baptist. But they said to me, you're going to go somewhere, and if you want to continue to go at Prairie Creek was the name, still is, Prairie Creek Baptist, that's fine. We got it, but you're going to go somewhere. And so I had that kind of support system.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing. But as far as I am concerned about your generation and the generation younger, but I have read that there is kind of like a small seed of revival amongst particularly young men in their 20s.
Yes.
I've read, Dan and I talked about it in our class that it's a small growth, but it's there, and it's starting to be more noticeable that some of the young men in particular are coming to the faith because they're so dissatisfied in everything else they've tried.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a resurgence right now. A lot of it is towards Protestantism, but there is a small surge towards Catholicism as well, which has been very interesting. Like there is a desire to return to something that is more traditional, has deeper roots, something that's older.
Comforting.
Yeah, comforting.
Neither of us are Catholic, of course, but I have always thought the Catholic Church had rituals and whatnot that were reassuring.
Yeah.
And familiar.
Yeah.
And for us Baptists, what's our familiar rituals? Lord's Supper.
Yeah, baptism, Lord's Supper.
Yeah, that's it. But I mean, other traditions like the pot roast and the casseroles and whatnot. Yeah, that and whatever else. But
they have traditions going back a millennium, though.
Right.
They're ancient.
And there's something comforting about that.
Yeah.
But as far as you can go see the movie when or it's probably on streaming somewhere.
Yeah.
I went to see it in the theater, and the reason why that struck a chord with me is because it changed the way a lot of church was done in the 70s, and I was a recipient of that change in a sense. I took part in it. The complete change in how youth groups operated and songs they sang and things of that nature, and the whole I don't know what they call the Jesus freak movement. I mean, I knew Jesus freaks even at age 12, and that kind of thing. And I wasn't one of them, but the late 70s was completely influenced by that young person's revolution, if you will.
Yeah.
And even filtered to the older crowd in the church.
Yeah.
It caused some instability in some churches because the older crowd wasn't quite ready for it.
Yeah.
But as far as the youth, we started. That's when Christian rock and roll started getting to be prominent, or Christian-based, maybe contemporary music.
Yeah.
Not just the hymns. And the whole thing, So I'm hoping this will be a resurgence of that.
Yeah, that'd be great to see. I wonder what that would look like today.
It'd be interesting.
It would be.
Well, we're about done here, I guess. So why don't you give us an update about what you would want people to know about our church?
If you want to come see what's going on, we'd love to have you. We have 3 service times now: 8:30, 9:45 modern, 11 o'clock modern. The 8:30 is a traditional, and then we also have a 12:30 Spanish service. There's a lot of exciting things happening right now. We're having a big push for missions. Chris, in our church's goal for this next year from 2026, January to December, is to send 100 people on a short-term mission trip. And we're going to have 6 different options, I believe, that we're going to be talking about.
Like countries or whatever?
Different countries and, opportunities.
I can, to my vast listening audience, I can stress very much how much you'll benefit from these things. When I was in the mid-'80s, I was 24, 25. Our church had a deal that with this Scottish Baptists, and so when they came to visit us, we'd put them up in our homes and they'd speak at our church, and we did the same over there. I had 2 trips to Scotland. They were life-changing events. I still remember. Yeah. And I don't know if I changed their lives. Maybe not.
Right.
That's forgot to tell me one day, I guess. But it changed mine. And so people thinking, I'm going to go, missionize the heathen. Well, you may be the heathen that's getting missionized.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. I think that our church does a very good job of selecting good partners for mission trips. Like, there's a lot that they'll go into an area, they'll do really great work, then leave, and then there's no follow through, just because there's a lack of partnership with local churches and local ministries. And so, for all of these trips and all these opportunities, we partner with local churches and local ministries so that we are supporting ongoing care, not just deploying and coming back and leaving them high and dry.
Well, have you chosen the locations?
They're going to be talked about tomorrow. I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't tell you where all of them are. We will have a Guatemala trip visiting Terry and Tiffany McConnell.
Oh, right,
which will be great in July.
They've been on the show a couple times. I need to get them back on. They were on Zoom about 2 years ago. I need to get them back again, but
Yeah, I think they're in town right now.
Well, yeah, but when they're in town, they're pretty busy, aren't they?
They are, yeah. They're pretty busy.
Well, not just with their mission, but also family.
Oh, yeah.
So
they have people to see. And, yeah.
So Guatemala, I'm sure would be one, and I know we've done.
That was my first overseas mission trip. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I know we've done South Africa before. My daughter went on one.
Is that with Scott Whitson to Tanzania?
No, it was
or South Africa.
It was South Africa itself. Yeah. I know that my son went not to a foreign country, but they went to New Orleans once.
Oh, nice.
To help rebuild churches after Katrina.
Oh, yeah. I think we were on that trip together.
Oh, yeah, with Ralph Ullman.
I can't remember Ralph.
Yeah. Oh, he was there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then he also went to one that helped with Megan Swearingen's church in Pittsburgh area, or Pennsylvania.
Very cool.
I don't know if it's Pittsburgh, but it was in the Pennsylvania area. Actually, I think it was in the eastern part of Pennsylvania, come to think of it. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate what you do. Look, I'm very excited about what's going on in our church. I hope people out there, if our church isn't your church, find one.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
If well, I'm not a Baptist. Well, great. Go find a church that fits you.
Yeah.
And preaches the true gospel.
Yeah.
Even if it makes you uncomfortable. If you're going to church all the time and being comforted and being comfortable, maybe you need to be uncomfortable occasionally.
Yeah.
Have troubling thoughts.
I'd agree. I'd agree. And if you have any questions about that, I'm easy to reach on Facebook. Our church website has all my contact info on it. So if you want to give me a phone call, it's on the website too. So,
you can be on next week because I have Daniel on for the. I keep calling him Dennis. Why do I keep talking? It's Daniel. Dadgummit.
Daniel Penticus.
Yeah, I'm going to have Penticus on for the Opportunity Fund. You're going to be on.
I think so.
Good.
I believe I'm slated for that. Talk about the breakfast. Very excited about that.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. I'm really happy to be part of that. And
well, Daniel's done a great job getting this ramrodding this whole thing. So, and we have some pretty nice people on that board, don't we?
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. There's some really, really civic-minded people on there, you might say.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you coming on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, we're going to do this again in the spring, all right? And talk about what the spring events are.
That sounds good.
God willing, still be on the air. Who knows?
Yeah.
You never know. I don't know. I might see something that Trump doesn't like. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if not, we'll just hang out and talk.
All righty.
Yeah.
All right. And so my next official show, I guess, if you will, I'm going to look on the calendar just to make sure because I always mess this up. Like I said, come on, get over there. I'm going to have the Opportunity Fund on next Tuesday, and then next Thursday, I have two shows. I double booked because I've been trying to get the Joshua ISD superintendent on, and he could make it just a very short window of time. I already had the show booked. I did want to tell the young lady, Sarah Brown's going to be on there. And I don't know if you know Sarah.
I don't think so.
Well, anyway, she's a Burleson ex, and she was going to be on the show, and I didn't want to tell her no. I can't tell Sarah no. I mean, if you ever know her, she come and ask you for a kidney. Okay, here it is. And anyway, so but the Joshua ISD superintendent will be on a week from Thursday. So thank you, Josh.
Of course, anytime.
All right, and it was a good show. I enjoyed the conversation.
Same here. Thank you.
All right, I'll see y'all later.